Welcome to the Quick Tap. I'm Charlie Morgan, the Telegraph senior rugby writer. I'm joined in the flesh this time by Saracens and England fullback Alex Goode. You've sort of foreshadowed that you've got a bit of Japanese, so come on, bring us in.
Well, that's a stitch up, isn't it? Yeah, I was there for 8 months. Don't have much Japanese, but Genki desu ka? Sumimasen, excuse me. Arigatou gozaimasu. Watashi wa Alex desu. Alex, I've forgotten the rest of it now.
Just a taste. More to come as we get into the analysis, I am sure.
I've got a bit, mate. Daijabu. Maybe do that one more time
All
later.
the best ones. Yeah.
At this point, I'd like to say thank you to the IFU, England Rugby, for giving us this plush, beautiful suite and for us being in person. So big thank you to them. And if you're following on YouTube, hit the like button and give us any comments you've got. We'd love to hear from you.
Before we get going, a big thank you to our sponsors, Continental Tyres. They're our go-to for premium tyres, prioritising safety, performance and grip. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Alex, with a heavy win over Japan, England's 2024 is over. We are going to talk a little bit about it, give it a review, and then I reckon we should mark it out of 10 right at the end, I think.
You've gone back to being like a school teacher there. Everything has to be out of 10 for you.
It's my fallback, but no, definitely. Pretty convincing in the end. A pretty convincing way to end a pretty stuttering year. But let's go right back to the beginning. It's the stark reality of it is it's 5 wins from 12 in a year. Was that expected given the amount of transition that England have gone through since the World Cup?
I think if you look at the World Cup and the results, how well England did in that World Cup, I don't think it was expected, no. Steve was given a tough job, came into it late, but to push South Africa to 1 point, the eventual winners in a semi-final, and look like the dominant side for 70 minutes of that game, I think people would have expected England to kick on more. And as you said, 5 out of 12 is not good. And really, that Ireland game is the big one where they did really well and put a great performance in. But since then, we've not seen... I say great performances. Unfortunately, we haven't got over the line, and that's the biggest thing here. Test rugby is small margins. It is about the winning, whether it's ugly or just getting over the line. Just get the win, and I think it takes a different complexion if we sneak that game against New Zealand. I think the whole autumn takes a different complexion.
The home one, or any of them?
The home one for me. Obviously, all of them away were tight, but it just sticks out that one at home, more recent, but to hit the post, to then miss those chances 5 yards out, I think even just allowing them easy chances to score, it just had a feeling of like we were the better side and we should have won that game. And that's one that will hurt most because I think it just changes the autumn. I think then there's a good chance we beat Australia because the confidence is high and we know exactly what we're doing and we keep that going. I'm not saying we beat South Africa, but I think it would have been even tighter. And then you come off the back of that going, well, maybe we've got 3 wins out of 4 and we're really building into a Six Nations. Obviously, a lot of ifs, buts, hearsay,
shoulda, couldas.
And that's never great. But I just think it changes the group confidence and how everyone's feeling. And then I think off the back of that, everyone can get behind it as a team and know exactly they're going in the right direction and believe in it. I'm not saying they don't believe that, but results take care of that naturally.
In a funny sort of way, I feel like their performance has been kind of quite level, and the 2 big dips have been Scotland away and then Australia here. And then even in the Australia game, they're a recovered restart away from getting over the line there. Quite another start one to throw at you. Those 5 wins, Japan twice, historically the worst Wales side in history, Italy, and that Ireland game. So you're right. The Ireland game, as far as England's ability to mix it with the best sides, or that's unfair, not to mix it with the best sides because they are doing that. To get over the line against the best sides, that's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
I think that's the biggest thing here, is that it's not like England have played really badly apart from those 2 games. And I think the Australia game was us playing badly. I do believe that. But it's just we're not finishing off those games and we're not being clinical. And I don't know if that is cohesion, time together, like key decision makers having time together. I don't know. But we're not getting over the line, and that's something that has to be addressed. Now, in all of those, you'd probably say it's small slip-ups, like switch-off moments, which we've talked about a lot on the Quick Tap, but that shouldn't happen in Test rugby. You should be 80 minutes. Like, it should be because the team beat you. Like, we want to have an England team that are hard to beat, and they have to play well to beat us, not giving them chances, not beating ourselves in that sense. And I think probably too often we've slipped up, we've allowed that to happen. and that's my feeling. Particularly the Australia game, definitely as well the New Zealand game at home, definitely the first test in New Zealand away. Like those kind of games, I feel like we've probably allow ourselves to beat ourselves.
Supporters are really bored of the caveats, but one big one is the amount of change that's gone through the squad and the number of debutants that Steve Borthwick has blooded, and some of them you feel like have got really big futures with England. Chandler Cunningham South has come, and in that space where Courtney Laws has kind of vacated, even without Ollie Chesham, we're going to get into Ollie Chesham later, I feel like his stock has gone up in his absence almost. Emmanuel Feo-Aboso, a very impressive, assured debutant. Ollie Slightholme as well. Finn Baxter has had his moments. I thoroughly enjoyed Asher Poku-Fajor coming on today, mainly because of his swagger over to the first scrum that he had in Test Rugby. But those are more moving parts, aren't they? Because there are people that are unfamiliar players.
I think you're looking at it in like, first cappers. Like, it's not how international rugby works so much. It's more the guys kicking on from 5 to 10 to 50 games. That's where you see the biggest development, really. Like early on, like no one's expecting anything from those players, and they're doing well, or they don't do that well, and they're never seen again. It's the development from 10 to 30, 40 caps where we've seen it with Marcus Smith, and that's just one example. Those players, they get comfortable at international level. They're just making better decisions week in, week out, and everything flows off the back of that. We shouldn't expect it from first cappers. They shouldn't be the ones being the stars. It should be the next group, and it's about that group you just mentioned getting now to most of those, say 90% of them, getting to 30 or 40 caps, and that's how the whole team gets better, and it's that time together.
Of course, but that's another. But what I mean is, when you're bleeding those players in, while players are also going for transitioning from 20 to 30 to 40, how difficult is it to have that extra moving part of people that are just totally unfamiliar with the pressures of what Test Rugby is?
It's very tough. Like everyone really knows, it's in any reading. Like you need like senior, experienced players who are brilliant players who lead with their habits day in, day out in training, what happens throughout the week, as well as on game day, they're people to look to. And then you have that slightly more youthful exuberance who are a bit wide-eyed, are just taking everything in, but are bringing so much energy and skill and playing with no fear. But you need that experienced core group who are setting the standards and playing unbelievably well and having more of those players than the younger players. So if you bring in one or two, it's an easy transition, and not bringing in 5, 6, 7.
The very, very best sides, and it's almost unfair to compare anyone to South Africa at the minute because they're back-to-back world champions, but look at the year that they've had. They are blooding, I think it's 50-odd players that have represented them this year. We have to say they are in a pretty unique situation whereby one obviously won those World Cups, but they have these iconic leaders around which it's much easier to build a side and to bring in new faces.
But even if you look at South Africa against Wales this weekend, and they had Hendricks at 10, but they then had Delinde, Creel, Colby, Arinze, and Fassi. Like the rest of that back line, Fassi, have played so many games together, like so many matches, and so bringing in one player to fit in around that is not a problem. As well as they had a very experienced pack. Like they don't bring in 8 or 9 players at a time. It's one player in the pack maybe, or one in the back line, or 2 or 3 there with experience around them, and that makes a huge difference.
If you take this 59-14 win over Japan, as we've said, very comfortable. But let's get into the detail of that, because I think in a way it reflects how the year's gone as a whole a bit. When England have had assured line-out ball and a really solid set-piece pattern, they've been able to vary things, and they're becoming increasingly dangerous as an attacking force. Can we start with the first try, that it's exactly the same set-piece move as the one that went wrong against Australia and pretty much started that negative spiral towards the end of that Wallabies game?
Yeah, I think a common theme for us has been the set piece, precision, perhaps not winning it in the right areas, like getting things slightly wrong, timing. Like everything flows off your set piece, and this team particularly want to play off set piece. Now that first try, they win the ball towards middle back. It's good delivery off the top, goes straight to 9, good pass. And they do the same play, and the timing, they're not under pressure, they haven't got shooters defensively, they're sitting off, and they pick them off. And it's beautiful timing, looks like a great set play, and works so well. I think for me, throughout the game, the set piece was the most crucial factor. It wasn't a kicking game, it was a set piece. Now, whether that was scrum or line out, everything flowed off the back of that. So the line out was dominant, and they won balls off the opposition, and they scored off that. They could pressurise them to win at the front or win in bad areas, delivery, and then they would control defence off the back of that. Scrums as well. They won penalties. They won territory off the back of it. They pressurised their ball, so the ball came out quick and not good delivery. And then defensively, they could then shut it down with back rowers coming off. And then everything flowed off their set piece, attack-wise, whether it was the maul or, as you said, these set plays. Now, the biggest challenge for England, while these set plays were great to watch, is when you don't get the pitches you want, like South Africa, you win in the front ball, how can you still manipulate quick ball? How can you get into creases?
We spoke about New Zealand taking away the line-out platform, didn't we? So kicking in field and making those kicks contestable and almost depriving England of something that they're really good at.
Yeah, and teams will do that. And you might not get any line-outs in that, but you still get some through possession of like you kicking to touch. I think England, it's that development, and we've seen them trying to do these plays. It's just that time together, and it is an excuse, but it comes to the Autumn Internationals, you need to get those right, because that even the try that was disallowed because of the knock-on, I think JVP knocked it on.
Tommy Freeman.
It was perfect from England in that they got into where they wanted to get into. Then second phase, all the forwards went across. Then it was just one-on-one tackles constantly, quick ball. Marcus makes a half break, one-on-one tackle over the gain line, playing quick, and they're just picking people off.
Doesn't have to be super intricate.
It doesn't, but it comes from the start where it's delivery, getting into creases, getting the one-on-one tackles, and everything off the back of that works. But too often we've seen, like the clip against Australia, where Lawrence just overruns forward and the ball goes home, and then Australia score. Those kind of issues, or winning at the front and then you're running into a brick wall. Like, the key for England is pushing the delivery more than anything, getting that set piece so precise, and then when you play off the back of that, everything's easier. This isn't a monster England team. They haven't got huge ball carriers across the board, so they need their set piece. They need their running lines. They've got people like Benno in the back line. You've got Chandler Cunning-South who goes into the back line sometimes. You've got people who can do those roles. Lawrence is a really good strike runner, so we have to get that right. If we don't, then we only go to kicking because it's too hard for our team to generate momentum. We haven't got Will Skeltons who can just generate momentum off the back of nowhere. So the first phase have to get it right. And if teams don't give you that, or they give you just a front ball, we need to be clever and have ways of working around that, because we saw at the weekend Ireland scoring from a peel 5 yards out. France also scored, I think it was this weekend, where they hit in, and then second phase, two forwards to get the timing right because it's quick ball, and they score. There are ways to
Flamont,
there are ways to attack without using them all. There's ways to attack through peels where you're just getting momentum and then you're beating them around the corner.
Am I jumping the gun here? It feels like Ben Earl and Ollie Lawrence are the carriers that epitomise how England need to play, because you can't be sending those guys into brick walls, but you can if you give them soft shoulders. People at Bath will talk about Ollie Lawrence is a 13, he's not a 12 who'll bash down the front door, but if you can give him weak shoulders, as England did for that first try when Marcus Smith is in the second layer with him and they get the pull back behind Earl to Smith, that's when they're dangerous. And Earl playing a pullback pass himself for, I think, Luke Kandicki's second try, that's really nice variation.
Yeah, of course, in a perfect world, you have Lawrence running the wider line out wide, so he's one-on-one with a 13 on the out ball, or he's running at the wingers inside, where there isn't traffic, and he isn't running at people, he's running at soft shoulders. But you still need someone to run off Slade. Like, Slade takes the ball first there, and he's got the option of, like, Lawrence hard off him, running into the space, or you go at the back. Now, if it's not him, then who is going to run that role?
Well, they've had Earl there, right? They've had Earl
on the six man, the line-outs where they've got forward out. Now, that works well, and you saw that where it worked in this game, where Earl runs the hard line, and you can use him to smash it up, and then second phase, you've still got Lawrence and other runners. If you don't go to a six-man, now, like, if you've got a full line out, and you're looking like you're mauling, or you're playing off it, or you want Ben Earl to break out, that's different. It seems to be that's England's shape. Now, it's worked in this game so well, and Japan sat off and allowed them the ball and didn't put pressure on them, which is great. It's about working consistently. That's their shape, fine. If everyone knows it's coming, it's not a problem.
Consistently against elite sides. Japan had about 200 caps in total. They'd lost pretty much the spine of their side. So it's a nice run out, but they need to see progress.
Of course, like, the Japanese weren't the best team today. It wasn't South Africa, it wasn't Australia, it wasn't New Zealand. But I think it's no problem. That's their shape. They're going to stick to it. And everyone knows they're doing it. It's still another thing defending it. And if you have the right running lines and you get that timing right, you've got Lawrence running into space, you've got Beno running into space, and then you've got devastating wingers out the back who are lightning quick. I just think we're not always going to get the best picture. It might be that we've won the ball at the front. I keep going back to that. Suddenly they've got extra defenders out. So how do you manipulate quick ball? I think that's when you have to start using people like Feo Roboso, Freeman coming off their wings, people who are good strike runners into spaces like they do for their clubs every week to get front football and then look to go wide. But this is hypothetical. Like, England have attacked unbelievably well today. They can only beat the team in front of them, and they were so precise in terms of their delivery and their attack from line out and their combinations for mixing it up, from mauling it to then playing off the top to then playing sort of a dummy drive, that they kept Japan guessing, and they were never really felt like they were running into brick walls that often. It was quick ball because it was one-on-one tackles. So all you're trying to do as attack is create one-on-one tackles. If Lawrence has a one-on-one tackle, he's going to get you quick ball, he's going to get you over the gain line, and then you can play fast on that, and you're unlikely to get turned over. If he's running into 2 or 3 men, it's slow, it's a hard breakdown, your forwards have to come further around the corner, and it's much harder to attack.
Let's switch to the defence here. A lot of panic is maybe a fair term about this blitz still, and Japan lacerated it again, and it comes from the kick return initially, the kick chase initially,
yeah.
And it looks a little bit like the try they conceded in the first game of the Six Nations in Rome, where Italy cut them apart because the spacing at the initial ruck is poor, and the wing, it was slight home today, it was Daly in that first game, is left all on their own.
I think first and foremost, kick return is going to be one of the hardest bits. You're not going to have your 10 in the front line because you have a 10 and 15 backfield. You could put your 9 there, but the system works well with 10 and 15, and when you've got something like Marcus, you want him in the backfield. So you've got one less number on that. Now, most of the time, and with the new rule changes, England are going contestable. If you get that kick slightly long or it's a bouncing ball and they get yards, it's when you're in trouble, because you've got forwards who are scrambling to get into position. And if it's quick ball, like we saw there and we saw in Italy, that's a problem. And generally, it's when it comes in field about 15, 20 yards.
That's exactly what I did today.
Yeah, that's a problem, because you have to mark up blind side. You've got all the forwards, imagine, coming up the field. They go first to the blind side because they're like, well, there's a big space there. Then by the time they've seen there's no numbers there, they try and fold, but they're very narrow, and then the ball's gone. Now, they could have dealt with both of the ones by being really aggressive, but it felt like today particularly they just sat off a little bit. I think Slade goes. I don't think Slime quite goes enough with him. He's sort of late-ish and then commits, and it goes. Now, Slime is unbelievable in attack. Like, he scores whenever he touches the ball, it feels like, and their plays, even getting him in off the maul today, was really effective, and he's a good carry like that. He's brilliant. It's just such a different defensive system for him, and it's so hard because he wants to commit. It's a lot easier when we have numbers up, and it's like an easy picture for him to see. In that scenario, and obviously Austin Healy's berating the system, saying it's the worst. For a lot of the game, we were comfortable forcing errors, forcing mistakes, pushing Japan back, getting them to kick the ball straight down our throat, and then we were on the front foot counter. So I can't say it's bad defence, no, because it's giving us so many opportunities. It's just a few too many times when they make a half break or they even just look to get on the edge, they're 7 points. It's not like we see with South Africa where Khaleesi or Peter Sefton are flying across the field, or someone's covering across and they make the tackle in the corner. It is like, as soon as there's a break, wow, they've got 3 or 4 men and we've got 1 defender. And that's the worry. But it's like I said, it all comes down to controlling. When our set piece was on top and it doesn't come from unstructured, we slow the ball down. we are then in control. We get our space defensively, and we can fly up and be physical. When the ball's really quick, this system is in trouble, and it's quick on quick, and then you're in a world of pain.
When Slightham first came in, Steve Borthwick really interestingly said, we know what he can do. He's a sort of arch try scorer. His finishing instincts are fantastic, but we're really excited about where we can bring his defensive game. Now, that was when Felix Jones, an expert at the blitz defence and the nuances, was still involved. Now, I just wonder how that changes with Felix Jones no longer there and Joe Alab taking over.
I think it's probably very hard for him. He's, regardless if the defence is exactly the same, it's different wording, different messaging you're going to get from two different coaches. So, as you said, he's come in. It's a very different system to anything he's ever done in his life before. He's not even that experienced in rugby, full stop. Like, telling how it is. So he's new to England. He's new to a defensive system. He's like getting used to playing professional rugby year on year. Everything's going so well. We know he can score tries. I mean, he's so fast. He makes fast people not look fast, to quote Forrest Gump. Like, he's rapid. He's got a great touch with his foot. He's obviously worked on that since the Premiership final. He's scoring from every kick that goes in. Like, he's brilliant in that, and we want to get him as many touches as possible. But I'm not trying to be negative. All the wingers are struggling with it, and it's different. It's a very hard system, but you only get better by having practice there. And if you're getting two different coaches, different messaging, whether they're the best coach in the world, it's going to take time. So it's someone you've got to stick with because he gives you so many upsides, but he just needs time, practice, and he will adjust and get better and better at it.
I realise that I let you bully me out of asking you about a mark out of 10, so I'm going to go first. 5.5 out of 10 for 2024. Higher or lower?
I think lower, if I'm honest, which hurts me. Purely on results, not performance, I think lower.
Do you want another mark for performances?
No, I just think that England boys themselves will be very disappointed, and like it's hit them so hard at some of the results. They're brilliant players, they're proud players, they don't want to lose games, and the saddest part is that they're getting themselves in the right areas to win games, and we hark back to it. But unfortunately, the results, 5 out of 12, I think you said, that isn't great for an England team, and they'll be disappointed with that, like very disappointed. But performance-wise, like Scotland and Australia, they've been poor.
Number out of 10
for
the year.
For the results, it's going to be clickbait. This 4.
Brutal. Right after that scathing 4 out of 10 that your Saracens teammates are going to give us pelters for,
cheers, mate.
Some
you
positives.
The paper tiger. What you say off air, and then what you say, 5.5.
Got to keep up appearances. Some positives from the campaign. I'll start. Will Stewart, reasonably strong in the set piece. Probably really strong in the first half of that New Zealand game.
Give me a scrum position, mate. He's been so dominant, and you love a scrum. How's he scrum, mate?
It's a happy cat, isn't it? So it's all of that. Yeah. I mean.
Did you just do a happy cat on live? That's genius. Don't cut that out.
Impressive. And what's impressive on top of that is that England are really thinking about the future with Asher Opoku for Joe Afo, for Sogbon playing for the A team. That's something to look forward to in an area they really need to develop depth. A couple of positives from you.
Look, I think for me, it's certainly not doom and gloom. Like, the performances are there. They've just got to finish these games off. For me, Marcus has been brilliant, like really outstanding in this autumn. I just think his decision making, how he's run the game, the way he's kept the ball in front of the forwards so often has been excellent. It's taken another step up, and I think this isn't you build a team around him. He's there to stay at 10, and you've just got to give him as much time there with combinations. So if it's Slade and Lawrence or the back three staying the same week in, week out, so he can only get better and better, and everyone just gets so used to him being there. And I think he's that key. I think under the radar a bit, but I think he's been excellent. It's been Maro Toji has been really, really good this autumn. I think his physicality, his leadership there, even sometimes when Jamie George goes off, him stepping up as a leader. I don't know if he's been taken off in any of the games. He's been really exceptional, and I've been very impressed by him. So look, I think going forward, it's been a tough autumn, but it's actually exciting come the Six Nations.
Maybe potentially Ollie Chesham and Alex Mitchell, two players whose stock went up in their absence. So I think getting them back for Six Nations is fairly important.
Would you? So you would start Chesham and Marrow? Martin?
I just think
or
even that depth they have in the 19 shirt as well goes up with Chesham there, and they've got the options to move things around. And maybe I think it was sort of the plan today, wasn't it, against Japan, to have Cunningham South coming off the bench. He came on earlier because of that Sam Underhill injury, but I think that's maybe his role for this side at the minute. That's 20 minutes at the end.
Yeah, I think just going to Mitchell, I think he is someone who England have probably missed a lot. Like, I think Ben Spencer's brilliant. I think JVP's brilliant. Harry Randall's brilliant. I don't think anyone's sort of like really claimed that 9 shirt. I think the reason Mitchell's so important to England is Marcus Smith is an incredible talent, but he isn't a 10 as much as maybe he's different to like an Owen Farrell or George Ford. He isn't a 10 who's going to do every single phase. So he's not going to be there running the whole game the whole time. He is someone who is going to just watch, and he wants, like Danny Kerr has done for him and now Porter does for Quins, like he needs a sort of French 9. And I think Mitchell is the only one who does that. He runs his team at club level more than any other 9. Like, he dictates the tempo, where they attack, how they attack. And I think he's so important with the combination with Marcus. Marcus can run that first phase and be devastating and bring his magic and like do the plays around what he's good at running. And then he can sort of dip out and let sort of Alex Mitchell run the game for 2 or 3 phases, and then bang, Marcus comes into life and sees that and just takes it on and goes. Because his best bits, and most of England's best bits this autumn, have been his brilliance or him seeing something or him playing on instinct. And you don't want to stop that. But him being in every single part of the game takes away from that. So you need a 9 who just completely takes control and does that week in, week out. And that is Mitchell for Northampton. And when they're at the best, he runs everything and sort of allows Finn Smith to do the same role. So for me, I think that's the most important thing. And it's that the other 9s are brilliant, but he does that week in, week out. Six
Nations, they start with Ireland away, England, and then 3 games that define their tournament. All of the Blues at home, starting with France, then Scotland on the 3rd weekend, which just seems huge given the horrible record against them in the recent past. And now they just look like a tidy, cohesive side at the minute. Then Italy, then Wales. What can we expect from England results-wise this tournament coming up? It's going to come around very quickly.
Yeah, I think you were saying it's doom and gloom. I don't see it that way, weirdly. I think from my side, I actually think it's quite exciting. I think this Six Nations is going to be chaos because I don't see a dominant side. And I think the fact that England have got Scotland and France at home is actually a massive opportunity. France don't travel that well. That's a lazy slur on the French people in some ways, but they've had results over the last Six Nations where they have still lost in Ireland, in Scotland, repeatedly. And I think there's a chance there for England.
Travelled all right to here last time.
Yeah, fair point, but it doesn't always happen. I think Scotland, they've had a great record at the moment, but England will enjoy perhaps being the underdogs there, and like they'd love to fire into Scotland in that sense. So, look, is it hard? They've got Ireland away, very tough, but there's a couple of games there. It's going to be really exciting and give England a massive chance. What a start! Like Ireland away, pressure's on them. They've had some good results. They go there and get stuck into Ireland and try and disrupt like New Zealand did to them, physically go after them. If the set piece is firing for England, they can put massive pressure on there. The kicking game, massive pressure. It's a good matchup in that sense for England. But they can't defend for long phases against Ireland because that would be a disaster defensively. So they've got to just dominate set piece and physically go after Ireland like never before. You suddenly get that, then it opens the Six Nations up. But I think it's going to be mad because I don't see one team winning all the games. I think, you could see France beating Ireland at home and then losing to Scotland away or something, like England losing to Ireland but then winning against France and Scotland. Scotland could be dominant in some. I don't see any one team winning every game, so I think there's going to be lots of wins, like 3 wins for a lot of teams, maybe one team sneaking 4 wins. I think it's going to be pretty tough for Wales and Italy.
Can't wait. We'll blink and it'll be here. And in that little period, there'll be players playing well in the Champions Cup and the Premiership that we can big up.
Yeah, and as the paper tiger now, are you going to give us any predictions?
Be a real snake.
Yeah.
I reckon England 3 wins. How about that? That's right on the as on the fence as the 5.5 out of 10.
Who are those 3 wins coming against now? I can guess the first 2. Who's the third win coming against?
They're going to beat France.
Oh, okay.
Italy and Wales.
So you think France? After saying that France did quite well here last time.
Yeah.
Undermining me.
I've let you bully me out of it again.
Oh, okay. Classic.
How this is going.
Paper tiger.
That's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for watching and listening to the Quick Tap in partnership with Continental Tires, our go-to for premium tyres. Whether on the rugby field or the roads, safety always comes first. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and follow us on social media for the latest rugby updates. Next week we'll be back, Goode, with our last show, and it's going to have a Lions theme.
Exciting, mate. Arigatou gozaimasu. Konbanwa. Good night.